Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to question number 3 of ATX. This is from your Kaplan revision kit FA23. This is applicable for your March 2025 exam. I have posted the previous question, that is question number 2, also for members only. All my YouTube channel members can watch. But question 1 is available for all. If you are my YouTube subscriber, if you haven't joined my channel, you can watch one also. And even members can watch question number 1. So 1, 2 are already there out. Please go and check under ATX revision kit solution under the playlist. And this is question number 3. Now, question number 3, I'm requesting you please read the case study, read all the exhibits requirement, and then come back so that we don't waste a minute reading line by line. So immediately I'm going to jump to the requirements of this question to understand the nature of this work. Mostly in your exhibit, the last exhibit gives you the what requirements. So there are 3 exhibits, 1, 2, 3. One, as I can say, it is about some business, unincorporated business. Okay, mostly the nature of section A. 50 marks question is this. They will give you some unincorporated business. They have some income. Second is some inheritance tax. Some draft calculation is given. That means some error might be there, which you might have to correct, and work to be carried. So exhibit 3 is where your detailed requirements are with all the marks. Okay. So now, but briefly you can read what you have been advised to do. And today's date has been given as 1st September 2024. So this piece of information you will get from the first few lines. Okay. So you have to find the income after tax from new business, also the tax relief available for trading losses. This is a very frequent question. You will always get some loss to deal with. It could be capital loss, trading loss, right? You have to know the reliefs. Next, the employment status of a salesman to be hired by Jonny, including consideration of personal service company legislation. This area also I've covered, employment versus self-employment. And the next, inheritance. Value of inheritance received by Jonny after deducting any inheritance tax due. So this is inheritance that will go to whom? The residue of the state. So this is the basic idea we have been covered. Now, requirements are in exhibit 3. So here, and you know your professional skill marks, 10 marks will be there in section A itself, and also ethics question. Okay, so for first one, you need exhibit 1. Okay, and you are prepared, you have to prepare a memo. Make sure you know the format of memo, because that's how you are going to get your communication skill marks. That is your professional skill marks. Okay, we'll show you. So you have been given the tax income tables to be completed. They have given this question mark, you have to fill it. So here it's for 12 marks. What are you supposed to do? Not only calculation, include a brief explanation also to why these calculations are only an approximation of their budgeted post-tax income. Okay, next is for 14 marks, even higher. Okay, so this is about some agreement. You have to say, explain if in the event all the arrangements are treated as employment, explain how if all the personal service company legislation would apply to Johnny's business and the salesman. Okay, next, new contracts for the business. This is for 5 marks. This is ethics. This is ethics question. Explain to the extent which is acceptable for us to use the knowledge we have gained in respect of our existing client and ex-client to assess Johnny. This is something you can say confidential issue they're talking about. They're touching this area. Next, for 9 marks, you have to use exhibit 2. So all this, for part A, you have to use exhibit 1 only. B, exhibit 2. Okay. Technical is 40 marks. Professional is 10. That's how you get 50 marks. Okay. Now, so you have to review. You have to review the inheritance tax computation they have done already for you. Identify the error. Once you identify the error, explain the error, and then calculate the correct one. Okay, so for you to calculate, you have to find the correct income inheritance tax first. Question is not what inheritance tax. Question is asking you value of inheritance which Johnny will receive after inheritance tax has been paid. So first you have to correct the inheritance tax, then only you can find the residue left to Johnny for 9 marks. So without spending more minutes, we'll straight away go to first one. Okay. So yeah, exhibit 1. Okay. So from my requirements exhibit 3, I'm moving on to exhibit 1 and 2. Okay, 2 is for inheritance, 1 and 1 you will need for your requirement A. Okay, so this is about employment. We'll see how many incomes they have. So he's working full time until 30th June 2022. Salary of 6,000 per month he was earning until then. From 1st July 2022, he's earning a salary of 2,000 per month. Okay, until he ceased the employment on 31st March 2024. Now, plan for new business. This is recent employment income, salary. Now he's turning to business. He starts trading on 1st November 2024. Dates are very important. Two budget has been given to you. Okay, based on the customer's demand. Strong, weak. You should assume no tax adjustments are required for this profit and loss. Okay, you don't have to adjust it. So here you have a loss of 15,200 in this tax year under weak demand. Okay, and Johnny does not have any other source of income or any taxable gain. Okay, only this. Next. Next is salesman, but this we do not need right now. We need it when we answer the requirement for personal service, right? Personal service company. First, we'll finish the first part A. Okay, what is the requirement of A? So first part of A worth 12 marks we can finish. Okay, so you have to adjust your 15,000. What is the starting point? Before you start the thing, we'll read some how to answer this. Okay, some key areas I want to tell you. Okay, now there are some areas that are extremely tested in tax, not so much asked in ATX, but your tax knowledge will be brought forward, like unincorporated business, training laws, employment versus self-employment, personal service company, basic inheritance tax. All these are brought forward knowledge from tax. Okay, now so here section A, formal requirement memo you have to do. So this is the way you write a memo. You start from whom to whom the files. They will give you to whom you have to prepare. Prepared by whom? Tax senior. You prepared by you. You are a tax senior, tax advisor, anything you can write. Date, today's date, given in the first line on the case study. And what is the subject? This is something you have to write from based on your case study. So this is about Johnny. Okay. Johnny has new business, inheritance tax, and other matters. Just write other matters. Don't write too much. Don't make your subject too lengthy. Don't keep it as a sentence. Okay. Now, so always write in subheading. First one is about unincorporated business. This you will get from the requirement itself. You go here, go to exhibit 3. You see unincorporated business. A. B. Salesman. C. Inheritance tax. So like that, you will get it. So that forms the structure of your answer. Okay. So we are talking in the first part post-tax income. Okay. Now, when we are giving options for relieving the loss, you have to select the most tax efficient, which reduces your tax. Why? because the question did not specifically tell you which option. Carry forward, carry back, terminal, which one, they didn't tell you. So most tax have option. Now that means you have to calculate either tax payable, extra tax payable, or how much tax you have saved from this first 2 tax years. And once you calculate the correct tax, deduct that tax post tax income. Okay. Now first we'll have to go through the options. Okay. So there are 2 options in this case. This is trading loss. Either you can offset in the 2024-25. How much was the loss? 15,200 under weak demand. It was in this tax year 24-25. You can set off this against the same tax year or the previous tax year, against the total income, of course. Okay, next. So this is option number 1. Okay, option number 2, you can, it's a, see, you are seizing in 2024, 3 years back, terminal. There's a terminal loss relief. This is known as terminal loss relief when we are seizing the business. Terminal means carry back 3 years. It's a FIFO, first year, first out. First, earliest year first. So 20, 21, 22, 22, 23, 23, 24. In this order, you can set off your lift. So we'll have to check both the method. Under in your exam condition, both the method you have to check because you have to decide which is most tax efficient. You have to compare. Why? Examiner did not tell you. In the case study, the requirement did not tell you which method. If they would have told you relief against total income, no option. But here is an option. Please understand the situation of the case study. This is when we are starting a business, this will not arrive. Because we are seizing the business, either terminal loss relief or against total income of the current or the previous year. Only these 2 options are there. You can't carry forward also because you are seizing your operation, closing down your business. Here, this is where your commercial acumen is tested. You see, professional skill, choosing the correct reliefs. So if you check, you have to go back and check here. 24-25 under weak demand. If you see the weak demand, this is a loss, 15,200. Loss means no income, nil. Income is nil. Okay, so we can't set off against that year. So first we'll finish. So there is no taxable income. Write it in this tax year. First, check the current tax year, 24-25, 24-25. No taxable income. Loss means no taxable income. But in the previous year, 23-24, see, keep a line here, space here. Okay, you're talking about 2 different tax years. Do not mix the 2. First, write the amount of the loss, talk about the correct tax year to be offset, and tell about both the tax years separately. So in this tax year, there is an income. They have an employment income. He was in employment, remember? How much? He was earning 2,000 for 12 months, total 24,000. And this 24,000 is below your basic rate. So he's a basic rate taxpayer. We'll check. So there was a line they have told he's earning. See, from 1st of July 2022. So it falls in 22-23 tax year. He's earning 2,000 salary per month. Okay. And before 2023 until 30th June 2022. That means this falls in 22-23. Wait a minute. Okay. So here, so from 1st of July 2022 until 31st March 24, he was earning 2000 salary. Okay, every month. So that's why in any tax year from 22-23 onwards, he is earning 2000 salary per month. Of course, in 22-23, it will not be the entire 12 months because it starts from July, it will be less. But the point is, he has been earning 2000 since then. Okay, that's the only income he has. So now 12 into 2000. Whenever you are given monthly figure, do not forget to convert it into annual figure by multiplying it by 12. Why am I telling you this? Because students often keep it as 2000. They forget to multiply it by 12. It's given monthly, not annually. This is done. Next, 21-22. This is now this tax year. Remember, until June 2022, he has been earning 6000. Means 21-22. He has been earning 6000. That's why it is 12 into 6000. So employment income is 72,000. You see? So this 15,200 loss in the first option can be immediately, everything could be resolved by using this 24,000 employment income because income is more than the loss. Second one also is the same. Employment income 72,000. This 15,200 could be employment income will reduce by this. So 72 minus 15.2. Even after reducing this 15,200, some of his income will still be taxable at a higher rate. Because 72,000, if you see, it's at a higher rate. And if you minus 72 by 15.2, still income is 56,800. 56,800, which is higher rate. So some at basic rate, some will be taxed at higher rate. Okay. So now, because it is at higher rate, and in the first scenario, he's at a basic rate, everything is at basic rate. So if we deduct 24, 15.2, whatever the income, entire income is at 20% basic rate. And if you're not relieving the loss of 15,200 against 24, still it is at basic rate. So you're not saving or gaining anything. Rate is same. But in the second scenario, you are what? Because you are setting the loss of 15,200 against 72,000, you are reducing your tax by this much at a higher rate. This would have been taxed at higher rate. That's why 15,200 into 40%. This much tax refund you will get. Because before the loss, you have paid tax on 72,000 at 40%. Correct? Now, because you are deducting 15,200, you are going to get a refund on that 40% on that 15,200. So this is the tax refund 6080. So which one is most tax beneficial? First one or second one? Second one. Why? First one, you're not getting any tax refund. Sorry, first one. Second scenario, terminal loss relief, you're getting a tax relief. You're getting a tax refund when we are relieving the loss in 21-22. So the loss should be offset in this tax year. This is most beneficial. It's going to tax refund. This is most tax efficient. So now we'll go by this assumption 6080. Now remember, they have given you question mark to fill in the blank. Now you can do it. What do you have to do? They have given you this 39,200, 2,800. They have given you the profit. Now you know the income tax payable or refundable. Deduct it and get your profit, post-tax income. So now remember, these are taxable trading profit. You have to deduct your personal allowance. Because this is 9,200, personal allowance is restricted to 9,200. Here full personal allowance you will get 12,570 because it's 30. Here it is 0, so it is 0. Here it's 18, here is normal. So everything is normal. Next. Taxable income, you will get it. It's easy. Now, in this scenario, on this you are going to pay 20% tax. Basic rate. Done. So this is done. Strong demand completed. Coming to the second one. On this you are going to pay tax at 20% and hence get it. But you are going to get a tax refund of 6080. In which tax year? You have made the loss in this year. So if you adjust it 3 years back, 21, 22, you're going to get that refund in this tax year. It will be adjusted here, 24, 25, because this is the time you made the loss of 15,200. Okay. Now, what's next? So this is the, now, I'm sorry, that table and this table is different. Now we are filling this table. Earlier what we have done is, once we have got the trading profit, from trading profit we deducted personal allowance because we want to get the taxable income. And on that we have calculated tax payable and refund. But now we are calculating the table. So this has been given to you. Question. Now, so the first 2 tax years you aggregate. If it's income tax payable, you aggregate. Refundable also, you aggregate. 2 tax years has been given as strong and weak. So if you go to strong, it is just 13486. This you have to deduct. Just one figure. 3486. No issue. Coming to the weak. Weak, there's a payable also, there's a refundable also. 2 tax years. 24, 25, 25, 26. So here you are getting a refund. Here you have to pay. So the net amount. Net amount means you are getting more of a refund. That's why you are adding this amount. Okay, this is a net refund. That's why you see the working is shown here. If it's a one line working, inside the bracket you can show, no need to keep separate working and waste time and space. It's one line. Keep it simple. Okay, so now you get your budgeted post-tax income. This one and this one. Okay. Remember, the requirement is not over here. They asked you one more question, which I would like you to take you through. Include a brief explanation as to why these calculations are already an approximation. This often students forget this part. So this is included here. This is what is given here, this line. Just one line is enough. They are an approximation. Why? Because it's based on estimates and these estimates could change. Okay, coming to the next one is about salesman. Keep same as the requirement. Even in exhibit 3 it is given in this order. They wrote salesman. Okay, now so now they are asking you whether you are a self-employed or an employed. They're asking you for the status. We'll go through that. You need to read it. Okay, so explain which of the proposed contractual arrangements with the salesman indicate that they would be self-employed. So it's more towards self-employed. You have to give indicators of self-employed, not employed. As state any changes, and the moment you see and, it's another requirement. And state any changes which should be made to the other arrangements in order to maximize the likelihood of salesman being treated as self-employment. That means even if you are treated as employment, you want to change your situation so that you are treated as self-employed. What are those changes that you have to write? Now, if let's say this is all this arrangement, this contract is treated as an employment, then how personal service company legislation would apply to the business and the salesman? How this legislation will apply? Three things you have to answer. Okay, this is pure knowledge. Nothing you have to, no numbers, no calculations. You have to know the rules of it. So we'll straight away go to the answer. So three status arrangements they have given. 1, 2, 3. And here, what needs to be changed? There are two factors they have given you. So you have to write like this, proper subheading, like this. Make it bold, you're typing. This will give you professional marks. Your answers are in a structure, in a memo format. Please always remember that. So now, this is pure knowledge, your textbook knowledge. Okay, now. But they have given something over the contract. Okay, which we missed out. This is requirement. You need to go to exhibit 1 to read the conditions. It's here. Okay, so these are the arrangements. They will walk on Tuesday and Wednesday. They'll be paid a fee of 300. They will use their own cars. They will lend each of them a laptop computer. Salesmen intend to set up companies through which to operate after the first 2 months. Okay, they will intend to. So Johnny is concerned that this relationship may be caught by the service company organization, personal service company legislation, and they might have a reporting requirements to fulfill. That's why you have to help him based on this information. So they will work on this day and this day. So based on this only you have to talk about using their own car, lending them laptop, deciding a fee for them, setting up their own company, timings on working, all these things. These are the factors you have to list down. Okay. So here it is more of a self-employed. Why? Because salesmen are using their own car. Number one. Number two, they are not paid sick or holiday pay. If they would have been paid sick or holiday pay, it would have entitled that they are under an employment contract. Next, they are paid a fee by reference to the work that they do. In a contract, in a employment contract, you're not paid according to the work you do. You are paid a fixed salary. Okay. So these are the three factors. This is based on the case study. How do you know they're using their own car? Given in the case study. Now, so in order to maximize the likelihood of salesman being treated as a self-employed, what do you have to do? What are the changes? There's two changes. Number one, rather than borrowing the laptop from Johnny, provide their own laptop computer. Salesmen better that they use their own laptop so that they are treated as a self-employed. Next, it's better if salesmen are able to work on the days they choose, not when they are required to work on specific days like Tuesday and Wednesday. Okay, these two are purely from the case study. Based days that they will work, give them their own laptop rather than borrowing from the company. So if you make changes here, the laptop and the days of the work, they will be treated as self-employed. Next, personal service company legislation. This area also could be asked. Okay. Now, one more thing. The period for which the salesman will work is not a relevant factor. Remember, in determining status, period, he can work for 3 years, 4 years, 5 years is not a relevant factor. But usually, if they're appointed for a longer period, it is an employment status. Okay, because normally we don't keep self-employed for such a long period of time. Next, so you have been given this legislation. Not only this legislation, this is pure knowledge, textbook knowledge. Okay, and you have been given x, no figures as given. You have to do this. It's a must. Based on this, you will be given marks. I will show you the marking scheme later on. Why? Because they told you if you are, the question told you so. See that requirement, if you see, How do you know you have to do so much or too less for a requirement based on the number of marks? It's 14 marks, so it's impossible. Just writing 5 points will give you 14 marks. Read this requirement very carefully. In the event, arrangements are treated as employment. Explain how personal service company legislation would apply to Johnny's business and salesman. How it will apply. You will show through calculation if it's a personal service company. So we have learned the rules for it. I've covered it in my ATX lectures previously, right? So now you will show by XXX, but first we'll go through the legislation. Keep space. It's different 5 points once again. Now, this highlighted was a very important. These are the key words that should be there in your answer. You should own at least 5% of the company. See, if the salesman owns at least 5% of the company, then they can go over through this rule, get through this rule. The anti-avoidance rules will only apply to the companies of the salesman if they own 5% of the company. Because if they're owning less than 5%, they will be employees only. Then it cannot be their personal service company. They should have some shares in the company for it to be called their company. And for that, salesman should own at least 5% of the company. Understanding? Then this rule will come. What is it? Anti-avoidance rule. What is anti-avoidance rule? They will want you to be treated as an employee. They will not let you treat it as a self-employed. You're setting up a personal. That means you are not no longer an employee. If you're owning 5% or more than 5%, you are not an employee. It becomes your personal service company. So you will fall under this category, PSC. Next, rules will apply to the relationship. Depend on the size of the Johnny's business. You have to talk about the size. Very important. If you're a small client, what is the implication? If you're a large client, what is the implication? And based on the case study, what is your conclusion? Whether Johnny is a small client or a large client. Very simple. 5% rule, size, small, large, conclusion. So here, if, okay, you have to write if there's a possibility. If it's a small client, who is small client? Johnny's business. Always mention the name of the company. If Johnny's business is a small client, then who will decide? See, this is why you have to know the rules of PSC very well, and it's from your textbook. Purely from your ATX knowledge. Textbook. My lectures is enough. I've covered it. In fact, I've drawn a diagram also very beautifully where I've summarized it. Small client, large client, how do you determine? So this size matters a lot. If it's a small, it is up to the personal service company. That means it is up to the salesman to determine whether these rules will apply or not. And if it's a large client, it is Johnny's responsibility to determine whether rules will apply or not. See, the parties change. If it's a small client, salesman will determine whether rules will apply. If it's a large client, Johnny will determine whether rules will apply. Next, this case, Johnny is unlikely to be a large client. Why? Why? This is where commercial acumen kicks in. This is your professional knowledge, a professional skill. That means, are you aware of where you are? See, if you read the case study, you will see Johnny has just started a new business. So it's very unlikely if you have just started a new business, you can't be a large. Obviously, you will be small. So that's why, as Johnny has only just started his business, see, you're referring to the case study as because they have just started his business, unlikely. Use probabilities like this. If you're not very sure, don't keep it 100% that they are not large client. Then just say unlikely that they are large client because they've just started their business. So who should check if it's a small client? But Johnny should check this. This is skepticism skill. You are showing. You are doubting. You're still doubting whether they are large or small. It's unlikely. But could be they could be large client, but possibilities are less. But still Johnny should check this. Okay. Now, so we are assuming they are small client. Now, based on that assumption, we'll do this. So based on that assumption that Johnny's business is a small client, okay, what happens? and the salesman are employees of the business. Because they are small client, salesmen will be treated as employees of the business. Therefore, you have to calculate the deemed employment income. And this is how it will be calculated. You have to show it. For this, you have to know this working. This pro forma you have to know. This pro forma, I've done it in my ATX lectures. Go under my PSC lecture. Okay. So this is something you need to memorize. Okay. We start with invoice amount. Compulsory deduct the statutory 5% deduction. Salary paid by PSC, employers NIC on salary, pension contribution paid by PSC, expenses deductible if salesmen were employed. All these are deductions. Get the employment income. Then this is absolutely there. Employees NIC 13.8 because employer are paying 13.8%. Divide by 113.8. Why? Because it was included in the employees NIC. You're taking it out. That's why it's divided by 113.8. It's inside that. We're taking it out. Employers NIC. And this is known as your employment income. Deemed. It is deemed employment income. Not employment income, deemed employment income. Use the appropriate words. Okay. Now, so because he's an employment income, even if it's deemed, you will be subject to what? Salary. So you'll be subject to income tax. Who? The salesman. Subject to income tax. Then what? Class 1 employee NIC. This is in the category of salesman. But the PSC means the personal service company, will be paying the employers NIC. Class 1 employers NIC. It's a income. It's a cash. No benefit. That's why no class 1A NIC. Only class 1 employers NIC. But employees NIC will be paid by salesman with income tax. Employers NIC will be paid by the company PSC. That's what the question also told you, right? The requirement also told you like that. Read the requirements. What is the requirement told you? That would apply to the business and the salesman. Personal service company and the salesman. How it will apply. So this is how it will apply. Okay. This is very easy if you follow through. So now, any amounts paid out of this deemed employment income, any payment. Remember, any payment of this employment income to the salesman will not be subject to further tax. This you have to write. Okay. You might be given this deemed employment income to the employee. It will not be subject to any more tax. Now, the next, new contracts for the business. Ethics, 5 marks for there. In question 2, I've told you how we do ethics question. Okay. But anyway, we'll read it. This part. Okay. So now, just okay. Nothing in exhibit 1. You can just go to the requirement and read the new contract. John is hoping to obtain contract with local educational establishment. One of the client is a college. One of our client is a college and an ex-client of ours provided service to a number of schools. That's why they have this knowledge and experience. So now you have to say whether they can carry forward or bring this knowledge what they have got from the ex-client to SS Jonny. This is the question. Okay. It's for 5 marks. You see 5 separate points. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 3, 4, 5. Always start with the ACCS Code of Ethics. If it's breaching some law, there are 5 codes. What are they? Confidentiality, objectivity, professional competence and due care, professional behavior, and integrity. 5 are there. Which one is this case study affecting? Confidentiality. Specifically this one. So this is one of the fundamental principles of ethics. This you have to write number 1. Number 2, you have to say that you are refrain from using it. Whatever information you got, you are refrain from using it to your own advantage. Number 2. Number 3. This confidentiality, remember, applies to both ex-client and continuing clients also. 4. You can't use this confidential client information to assist Jonny. That you have to write. Whatever confidential information you got from your existing client or ex-client, you can't use to assist Jonny. And last but not the least, but whatever the experience along with it you got, that you can use, okay, that you can use to help Jonny. Maybe you have become a consultant by advising our clients over and over again. You got some experience in that field that you can use to help Jonny. But any confidential information you can't pass. So this is the starting point. Okay, now part B. So Jonny is getting some inheritance from his mother. We have come to a question which is a little bit lengthy, but it's not very difficult. You have to follow through. You have to keep your focused. Okay. Now, so we need to read this. That is the last requirement also, and it should be easy also because you have been given this exhibit 2. First, we'll read. Johnny's mother died on 31st July 24. Whole of the estate she have left. Okay. With the exception, there is one exception, a gift to charity to Jonny. See, except a gift to charity, everything is left to Jonny, whole of the estate. Computation has been attached to you, where inheritance tax is calculated. This was prepared by some junior member. It was not reviewed, but they are confirming arithmetic, dates, and valuations are correct. The dates are correct, arithmetically it's correct, valuations are correct. There are no other lifetime gifts, and none of the assets qualify for business property relief. Many candidates still waste time instead of telling them whether this is correct. They are still trying to find out mistakes in the number. They're still trying to find out whether BPR is available or not listing the conditions. All this is not needed. Don't waste time. So this is the computation. Gift of cash to Jonny, 30,000. Now mother's state has been calculated. Okay. There is a main residence. So you are applicable to residence nil rate band also. Shares are there. Less than 6,000 was deducted here. Chattels. Cash is there, 20,000. Annual exemption, 3,000. You can see annual exemption does not come in the death state. That itself is a mistake. Gift to charity is deducted because it's an exempt residue. Then chargeable state value. Nil rate band is this. There is a gift that was made, which is deducted. This is the possible nil rate band. So on this, you have calculated 40%. Even this rate might be different if you are giving something to the state. Could be 36% also. We'll see. This is the inheritance. This is wrong. Okay. So now we'll correct it. So now, because you have been told arithmetic dates, valuations, and no lifetime gives, no BPR is there, do not waste time recalculating this figure. And there are some easy mistakes. Annual exemption does not come in the death state. And you are excluding a chattel less than 6,000. For inheritance tax, mind you, nothing is exempt. Everything is chargeable. This chattel less than 6,000 is exempt from your capital gain tax, CGT. That's why it's very often students miss this out. They get confused between the two types of taxes, CGT and IST. Okay. See, even if you have not got spot all the error, do not worry. Some, if you have got spotted, you will still get marks for the ones which you have spotted correctly and for following through. Now, first errors identified. First write the errors. See, you have to explain. Before coming to the calculation, there are 4 errors. Then we'll calculate the value of inheritance receivable by Jonny. See, very beautifully they have presented this. Okay. So that's it. Then we are moving on to the exhibit reported marking scheme. But first we'll go through one by one. Error one by one. First error. Chattels. Chattels of 6,000 not exempt. It is exempt for CTT, not IST. Second, annual exemption. Not available in death state. Third, the residence nil rate ban of 175,000 is available. Why? Because Johnny's mother's main residence, if you see the state, okay, main residence goes to direct descendant, which is to Johnny. So if it goes to the children, there is a residence nil rate ban of 175,000 available. Next, tax rate is 40% but is incorrect. 36% will apply. Why? You have left some to charity. We'll see how. The base amount. You have to calculate the chargeable state before deducting charitable donation and residence nil rate ban, but after deducting nil rate ban. Okay, so what is the chargeable state? This is this one. You start from here. This, so from 591, how much you have left to charity? 70. Okay, so here this is to charity. But remember, the things which you have done incorrectly, you have to add back. What is it? While calculating, you have deducted this. You can't deduct. You have deducted this 25,000 and this 3,000. This was deducted. Now add back with your 591, the transfer value, and then add 70,000 also give to charity. Okay, so 591, 25 chattel and 3,000 annual exempt and 70 charitable. Okay, if you add this, it adds up to 689,000. Now the value changes. Now, if you see this, take 10% of 689,000. It is 68,900. So 68,900 and you are leaving to the charity 70,000, which is more than the 10% of this, 10% of the baseline amount. That's why gift to charity 70,000 more than the 10% of this amount. Therefore, reduced rate of 36% of inheritance tax will apply. Very simple. Everything is done. Straight away, go to your calculation. Okay. See, no annual exempt amount add back. No exemption 25 add back. Residence nil rate ban deduct. Nil rate ban already calculated 301. So you don't have to question this, okay? Wait. This you don't have to question. This is correct. This gift before 7 years everything has been taken. You start from here. Chargeable state 892. Not 591. Okay. So 892 you start from 892. Done. Next, once you get corrected this error, this two other error you have corrected, taken residence nil rate, apply the 36% inheritance at that and get the value. Okay, now question did not tell you correct inheritance tax. Question told you inheritance receivable by Johnny. For that you need all the state assets. How much? Main residence. So all this you add and whatever you have given to charity you deduct. This inheritance tax just now you have calculated, deducted, and the balance. This is left to. This is the inheritance that Johnny will get. So we'll see what are the things we have to add. 530, 400, 40, 20. This you have to add, quota shares you have to add, this chattels you have to add, and this 20 cash you have to add. Okay, this 40 chattel and 20 cash. Everything you are adding, deducting the 70,000 gift to charity and inheritance tax, and whatever is there will be payable by Jonny. So that's it for this question. Now I will take you through we have finished this question. It didn't even take 1 hour. Okay, approximately took me 50 minutes to explain. Now we'll go through the examiner's report. You can take your own sweet time and read it in detail, but I'm going to quickly go through the main areas where students often make mistakes, which you need to correct for your part. Okay, now, so regarding the loss relief, trading loss relief, mostly students got full marks. Okay, many of the students have done well on this part. In fact, unincorporated businesses are tested in every exam. Frequently they are tested. Be prepared for this. I've seen almost all the past paper asking unincorporated business. Okay, and also the trading loss relief. Be prepared for this as well. So focus your question practice on this area. Okay, now you need to know trading losses, which trading laws are available in which situation. Situation matters. If it's a ceasing, if you're starting a business, if you're a continuing business, loss relief will change. Okay, you need to know the rules. So now, wherever the options are available, you have to go through all 2 3 options. But if they just tell you question told you one method, then stick to one method. You have to see if the question does not say which method, go by the option. Best option is where you are going to get a tax refund or where you have to pay less tax at a lower rate. Okay, next. So now, what did weaker candidates do? Weaker candidates spend so much of time preparing detailed income tax computation for several tax years. So they are adjusting their tax loss relief against them, calculating tax, wasting time. Don't do that. Okay. Still, you can get the tax refund if you do by that also. But the problem is very time consuming. Okay. And you have not been even given enough information for you to prepare that table. Now, second part. This is also done extremely well. Employment versus self-employment. Okay. They were able to identify. Now, one thing, because they know they have exited, they have wrote it in great length because they know everything about it. Don't do this. Stick to the number of marks. Okay. Now, the third part, ethics. This is also done well. Okay. In fact, this paper I can see most of the parts are done well only. Now coming to the part B, inheritance, where you have to identify error in the computation. Calculate the correct amount. This is mixed. Performance in this area is mixed. Okay. Many students went for this 6,000 exemption. Below 6,000 chattels, they thought it is also exempted from inheritance tax also. So they were not able to identify this error. And also, inheritance tax annual exemption 3,000. This also they were not able to identify that there is no annual exemptions in that state. Okay. Remember at ATX, you should not be making this mistake. You should be knowing this. You should be thorough with it. Okay. Now, what do the students do? After they have calculated the correct amount of inheritance tax, correcting the error, they rewrote the entire death state. Don't do this. Some marks you might get, but it's time consuming. You have to go by more efficient approach. Rather, you have to correct the error only on that value because it saves time. Okay, mostly in ATX, very frequently, this is the one that they ask you. If you see all the questions in revision kit, also question 1, 2, 3, what were they asking? After tax proceed, after tax proceed, after tax proceed. First calculate tax, then deduct from your income the tax and find the proceed. Okay. So now that's why you have to think what should be a starting point when you're calculating. In here, okay, the starting point, it is not the value of the chargeable state. If you start from the chargeable state, they have already deducted nil rate band. You have to do it before deducting nil rate band. Okay. Now, so if you fail to identify the correct starting point, this is also a very common error. Students often start from the incorrect. The starting goes incorrect. Everything goes wrong. They take after deducting nil rate band, but you have to take before deducting nil rate band. Okay. So now let's go to the marking scheme. You have to find income tax payable or refundable under both strong demand and weak demand, both 2 marks each. Then you have to advise on the options available 3 marks. Why 3 marks? 1 mark for each option and 1 for the choosing the option. So recommendation. Recommendation is 3 marks. Yes. Then summary is 1 mark. That table that they have given you question mark, summary. And calculation, oldie and approximation. Many students missed out this. Remember, sometimes you might be failing at 49 just because of this 1 mark. Don't do this. This was asked in the requirement. Why it is an approximation? Next. So you have to talk about the contractual arrangements. 3 marks, 3 points were there. 2 changes were there. And to calculate all this 5% company, 0.5 size of the client, big, small, and then the conclusion, what is Johnny's business? Then you calculate deemed employment income, then the tax treatment. Okay. Ethics, 1 mark for each, 5. And then coming to inheritance. Identifying the error, let's say 5 marks. Calculating inheritance is just 2 marks. Inheritance receivable by John is 1.5. So here identification of error is more than the calculation. And then professional skill marks, we'll see how you are getting it. So for memo, just prepare the structure of memo. Use proper headings, subheadings, to, from, date, subject. Then, by following the specific instructions, how? You are explaining the error in part B. They told you to explain the error. If you have missed out on this, you're not getting your communication skill marks. Next, analysis. You're using various data to arrive at post-tax income. You are using the data to consider anti-avoidance scenario. You are using the data to relevant error in the death state. And you are considering all taxes. Income tax and NIC, not just income tax, NIC also. Skepticism, how? Questioning that post-tax income figure are only approximation and you need further information to determine whether anti-avoidance rule. Remember, we don't know whether it's a small or a large client. Assuming it's a small client, we are going forward. That's why we need further information. So to identify that you need further information is you are showing a skepticism skill. Then commercial acumen. Identifying the relevant loss relief based on the case study. It's commercial. And appropriate changes. Whatever changes you do to the salesman to avoid the employment status. This shows commercial acumen. Okay. So that's it for this. I shall see you in the next question number 4. So please come prepared for question number 4. Read the exhibits, read the requirements, and then come so that it's easier for me. I'm aiming to complete a video, one question at least within 1 hour. So this saves your time as well as mine, right? Rather than going for lengthy videos. And at least try to do the questions before I give my review, my feedback. Please try to do the question on your own and do not forget to become a member on my channel by joining my channel. And please forward this video to your friends so that they also can join my channel and become a member and get access to this revision kit solution, which is only there for a month. So best of luck for your exam, and I shall see you in the next video with the next question. And take care.